Okay, hi everyone, I'm Smithy and welcome back to game 20 now in the annotated game section. And today it's actually going to be a two for one. We're going to be looking at two games, one which was originally in the course, and the other which is an add-on, which I think is going to enhance our understanding. It's going to focus on the two main topics for today, which is a king hunt and how to deal with black's early f5 attempts in certain positions. So let's actually start with this, because I think this A is not in the course. This will be new for absolutely everybody. And I think it's just, well, it's really, I won't spoil it. Anyway, after d4, which is the old main line, the best way of playing, well, certainly, there's this move called the Philidor counterattack, or the counter, it's something Philidor. And the idea is black is trying to use his pawns to chip away at white's center. Um, this is very dynamic double-edged play. But what should we be thinking about in the open? Well, we know we've got our three main tasks: develop our pieces, control the center, and we want king safety. We want a castle. Notice that white already has excellent control of the center. And after knight c3, he's got two pieces developed to black 0. And now this looks a little bit suspicious, does it not? Because can't black simply take this pawn? Okay, we recapture. But now, doesn't black gain the center? d5, move the knight somewhere, e4. Now this knight has to move. Isn't white in trouble? And this is where that third factor, king safety, really comes in. After knight goes to e5, we actually see a problem. One, white has two pieces developed to black 0, so that's obviously not very good for black. But also notice how f7 is very, very weak. This is different from the way we normally look at it. The threat is simply to move a knight, let's say like black does nothing, we'll plop the knight right into f7, it's going to be a fork, black's losing material instantly. So black has to defend um, this square. Only way to do that is knight goes to h6. And so we can see already a hint here about how the king safety is a problem. But it's only one of the hints is white's lead in development. The other is, of course, this diagonal being open. How can we use it? We have to be careful, because if we were to check right away, it looks so tempting, does it not? We've got to check. White can block. Sorry, black can block. And after this thematic idea where we're trying to set up a queen takes g6, black actually has bishop goes to g4, our queen's thrown away, and we're instantly losing. Mm. But this is definitely the idea we want to be looking at. And there's a way to set it up to make it even stronger. Knight takes e4. What makes this so strong? Well, if black were to take, we're going to take this knight. And if black takes this, now queen goes to h5, it's check, and there is no g6 to block. And this king is simply in the crosshairs now. And I want you to notice now the following, because I've always found this part very difficult. It's pretty easy to checkmate a king on the back half because he only has 5 squares he can go to. But once the king starts running, and it starts running, um, sure, obviously it's very, very dangerous. But again, he has 8 possible squares that he could go to. And it can be sometimes tricky to figure out how do we actually corner this king when he has so much real estate to run to. Here's the idea. Essentially, let's again look at where the king can run, and then we want to essentially put our pieces in such a we want to take away those squares, right? It's pretty obvious. So the first thing is white throws in this check, king runs, and now white throws in this check, and it's really forcing um, black to make a choice. If he keeps running to the side, this is very simple. We're going to throw the queen down, and that's checkmate. This is actually somewhat easier because, again, see how we pushed the king over to the corner? He kind of went there voluntarily, so there's only 5 squares we have to control, and if you put the queen directly in front of the king, that does your job right there instantly. Woohoo. So what happens instead of, going to the side, the king stays in the center? What's the idea? And this is the hardest part. This is the part that I struggle with the most when I'm trying to calculate these variations when I look at this in a puzzle. And it can help. It can really, really help if we think about, well, what is that real estate? Where can the king go? So I look at the queen. It's cutting off all these squares, and it's cutting off these squares. I'll just ignore that. This pawn is stopping these two, and this knight is stopping this one. Okay, so if I were check, then that'd be me. Woohoo! Do we have a check? And unfortunately, it seems like if we try to move this queen somewhere, right, then it's not controlling these squares. Or if we throw the knight back, well, then we lost control of that square. Ooh, but knight c4 looks really nice. Is there a way we can play knight c4 and still have c6 covered? Because that's the only problem. If you do this, he can run, and we can do this all day. Is there a way that we can control that? I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. And the idea here is bishop goes to b5. Now we're threatening knight goes to c4. So if black plays c6 or anything else, knight c4 is made. Okay. But black can do something else. Black can play bishop goes to e6. So now if we try knight c4, he's going to take it. Well, the bishop moved. That left not c4 check, but this check. And now this is a really funny, or it's beautiful. Knight takes b7. King moves to the center. Again, let's look at where the king has got. Right, this squares are covered by the bishop. This squares are covered by the pawn. Knight is controlling this square. The black pawn is here, so we don't have to worry about that. c4 check, takes, castle. Now the rook is fully up there, so we could win the queen if we wanted, but instead f4. Only possible move is capture en passant. Rook slides in, and we got a wonderful, beautiful checkmate that happened right here in the middle of the board. And how'd that happen? Again, if we go all the way back, yes, it looked like black was getting control of the center. But in exchange, white has two dominant knights. But the real thing, the main takeaway I want you to get is your eyes should absolutely light up when you see this weakened diagonal, because it can very often lead to king hunts like that. Now, it's not easy, right? It's not automatic. Not all those moves, you can expect to find, especially if you're playing a faster time control, bullet bliss, any of that, even rapid, it can be very difficult. However, if you recognize the weakness, that's going to help you find the tactical shots like knight takes e4, and then bishop takes here. Where if black takes, that's just opening up a world of hurt. So let's look at that, and let's see if we can apply the same things to the actual game that I had in the course. This is Tabor versus Rajna from 1971. It's going to be very similar. Knight goes to c6, and here black plays f5. So this is a different opening, but it's the same general idea. We can see black is using the flank pawn to attack the center. And I want you to notice how similar white's play is. Well, we've got two pieces developed. Let's control the center. d4. Then we might be a little bit worried. What happens after take? That's fine. We got a knight in here. And now we're still threatening this. Black ends up playing knight f6. Then white plays bishop c4. And again, I think this is the hard move, because you look at this and you think, but doesn't black just play d5 and kick our bishop with tempo? And we need to be able to look one step further. And what's the clue that we shouldn't just stop here? Then we should dig deeper. It's again, not this, not that. It's the weakness of this diagonal, because on move 3, black moved his f-pawn. Is there a way we can take advantage? Again, this doesn't work right away because the knight controls it. Is there a way to get that knight, to move that knight? Let's take the pawn. After he recaptures, queen goes to h5, check. Uh-oh, we got some problems here. Black blocks with g6, and now this is incredibly common. We're gonna take them. Notice how the pawn's pinned, and so if you take, we can simply win the rook back, and that'd be great. But we can actually do something even stronger. We can simply take the pawn. Now, if he tries to run, that's fine. Bishop goes to g5. Instead of winning the rook, we're actually going to win the queen. So that's pretty nice too. And if he tries to run this way, we'll notice how the queen doesn't defend the knight anymore. So after this, this is just absolutely decisive. We're threatening not even down material, and we're threatening queen goes to e6 check with mate next. Black is done for. But black doesn't take. Black comes back with knight goes to f6. You see what black's doing? The knight is now hitting our queen. And so we're trying to move the queen away and then take our knight. So what do we do? It'd be great if we had a check. We got to be careful. You do something like this. No, that doesn't work. Okay. And again, if we move our knight somewhere, or even like somewhere else, doesn't matter. We lose the queen. But now, if you've come this far, if you've watched every single one of these videos, or if you've gone through every one of the games on the course, we had a position very similar to this. I want to say it was about 3 games ago, maybe 4 games ago, where we found a way where where the queen was attacked with this potential discovery, but we found a way to tactically make it work without losing the queen. If you remember that, great. If not, here's a reminder: bishop goes to f7. Huge, bold, powerful sacrifice. And why does this work? Because after take, we can now move the knight. We're not going to take the rook. You block, and look, it's discovered double check. You can't take the queen because the knight's also there. After move, queen comes in, knight goes to c4, and once again, it's checkmate. And again, it's very, very similar to the example we have. Queen is controlling these squares and these squares. The pawn's controlling these squares. In the previous example, there was no black knight on c6, so we had to work harder. But here, the black knight is actually taking away the flight square, so knight c4 is check, and that's mate. So, what's sort of the takeaway that I want you to get from these games? It's that whenever we see an early f5 from black, we still want to be following the principles. We still want to calculate, that is, developing our pieces, controlling the center. But it's the king safety aspect which becomes vitally important. And so that really means when you get a position like this, where you might want to stop calculating because it looks like black is controlling the center, everything is great. Whenever there's that weakened diagonal, take that extra moment and think, is there a tactic associated with that? And it doesn't take too much to see how distracting the knight leads to a very thematic attack, both in this example and in the other one I shared. So that is, again, the main takeaway. And the more of these ideas that you get, the better you'll be able to play not just, these variations, but all games in which there's a weakness on that diagonal. So if you like that, I hope you found that useful. We're at the tail end, only a couple games left. So thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.